JC.
I want to follow up a little bit on that in terms of the global aspect. Unfortunately, Mr. Duncan was the first to succumb to the Ebola virus here in the United States. There's a little bit of geography. He got on a plane in Monrovia in Liberia. He flew to Brussels, got on a plane in Brussels, flew to Dulles, right close by across the river in Virginia. It is, to some, very comforting that the President was on the phone yesterday with President Hollande of France. In Europe, there are many gateway cities that take individuals from the continent of Africa. They go through Belgium, they go through Netherlands, France, UK, and Germany. Each of those leaders in those countries have a specific protocol, some less stringent, some more stringent than others. Will the President be consulting with, discussing with other leaders, as he has with President Hollande, including Chancellor Merkel, who's put more strict protocols in place, and Prime Minister Cameron, as to a coordinated effort as to the screening process of individuals who go through those gateway cities in Europe and come to the United States, and who are not so easily detected when they go through that particular process?
Yeah. Well, let me say a couple things about that, JC. The first is, all indications are that the index patient, the one who unfortunately did succumb to this disease last week, was asymptomatic when he was traveling. So this is somebody who would not have been contagious even though he had Ebola. He would not have been contagious and did not pose a risk to the broader traveling public. That's the first thing. The second thing is there are screening measures in place to protect cities around the world that start in West Africa. That there is a training regimen that Mr. Scheer's colleague Helene Cooper wrote about over the weekend. She talked about how many times her temperature was taken on the ground in West Africa before she was allowed to leave. And that is indicative of the protocols that are currently in place under the supervision of international experts, including the CDC, to ensure the safety of the traveling public and to ensure that, or at least minimize the risk of Ebola spreading. So that's the second thing. The third thing is it's the responsibility of all of these European leaders to decide for themselves what sort of protocols they want to have upon arrival in their countries. But fourth, there is a protocol for travelers who are arriving in this country, that those individuals are screened once again, and we just announced at the end of last week some additional screening protocols that would be in place for those travelers who did originate or recently travel from countries in West Africa where there is an Ebola outbreak.
May I just follow up? And
sure.
I don't mean well, I do actually mean it, so I'm going to say it.
You can belabor it.
I want to just a tiny bit. It is also known fact that many individuals have dual passports. Many individuals who come through Europe and may stay in those key cities for a length of time may not have particular instances where they're presenting with a fever. Others can take ibuprofen or other anti-inflammatories and lower the fever, get on a plane and get to America, where some possibly may think they are going to get help. So that's just something else that is out there and in the discussion.
Well, again, I can't speak to the medical veracity of what you're describing, but the fact is we've had an outbreak for 7 or 8 months now, and the number of travelers who have gone through the system is obviously very small in terms of who made it to the United States. That's because of the protocols that are already in place on the ground in West Africa and on the ground here in the United States. So we've got protocols in place. I mean, the other statistic that I've seen is that there are dozens of people who've been denied boarding of aircraft in West Africa because they had fever. So that is an indication that these screening measures that take place before anybody gets on an airplane are having an effect.